The ominous signal Redridge 9 was not a place anyone wanted to live. It was a dry, rocky planet with endless deserts, sharp cliffs, and blood-red skies. Only a few mining outposts stood on its surface, far from the core human colonies. One of those lonely outposts was Outpost Echo-7. Commander Ryan Davis stood on the observation deck, watching the sun slowly disappear behind the dusty hills. The air outside was thick with sand, and the only sounds were the hum of the generators and the occasional crackle of the radio. It had been a quiet week. Too quiet. As Davis sipped his cold, stale coffee, the outpost's communication officer, Maya Lee, burst into the room. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with worry. Davis set down his mug and walked to the console. A strange signal blinked on the screen. It wasn't human. It wasn't from any known colony. It was coming from orbit. "Is it a ship?" Davis asked. Maya shook her head. "I don't know. It's big, whatever it is. And it's not answering." "Our hails," Davis frowned. The outpost only had a small defense team, 37 soldiers, a few technicians, and some old mining equipment. If this was trouble, they weren't ready for it. "Get me a visual," Davis ordered. Maya's fingers danced over the controls. A blurry image appeared on the screen. A massive alien warship, dark and sharp like a dagger, hung above the planet. Red lights blinked along its sides. No markings, no flag. But Davis recognized the shape. The Vorlek Empire. His stomach twisted. The Vorlek were one of the deadliest alien species in the galaxy. They destroyed human colonies without mercy. They didn't take prisoners. If they were here, it could only mean one thing. "They found us," Davis muttered. He hit the emergency alarm. Sirens wailed across the outpost. Soldiers ran to their positions. Gun turrets powered up. The quiet, empty desert outpost turned into a fortress within minutes. Sergeant Mark Kane, a tough soldier with a scar over his left eye, appeared beside Davis. "Bad news?" Kane asked, though he already knew the answer. "Vorlek ship in orbit." Davis said, "We're cut off. No help's coming for days." Kane grinned, adjusting his rifle. "Then we make them regret it." Maya's screen flickered again. Another signal broke through. A strange, crackling alien voice spoke over the radio. "This world dies tonight." The room went silent. "Is that a message to us?" Kane asked. Davis nodded. "They're playing with us." Outside, the night came quickly. The red sky turned black. The stars above seemed brighter than ever, but one of them wasn't a star. The Vorlek ship floated silently above them, a predator waiting to strike. The soldiers set up barricades, checked weapons, and laid traps along the rocky paths leading to the outpost. They had old mining tunnels, loose terrain, and plenty of explosives. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. "I don't like this," Maya said quietly as she joined Davis on the observation deck. "Why aren't they attacking yet?" "They're trying to scare us," Davis replied. "Make us jumpy. Break our nerves before the fight." Down below, 2 soldiers spotted something moving near the cliff's edge. Davis ordered searchlights toward the rocks, but nothing appeared. Just shadows. "False alarm?" Kane asked. "I'm not so sure," Davis said. Hours passed. The tension grew heavier. The desert wind carried strange noises, the distant clank of metal, the rumble of engines, and low alien growls. It felt like the whole planet was holding its breath. Then, without warning, all scanners went dark. The outpost's power flickered. The radios fell silent. Even the comms linked to Earth went dead. "What the hell?" Maya gasped. "They're jamming us," Davis realized. "They're close." Suddenly, a scout team stationed near the western ridge sent a single, desperate message before their feed cut off. "They're everywhere?" Then nothing. Avis's heart pounded. He looked around at his people, soldiers, engineers, miners, all ready to fight with what little they had. This wasn't going to be a battle. It was going to be a slaughter, but humans had survived worse. Lock it down, Davis commanded. No one leaves, no one breaks. Tonight, we fight. As the final barricades were sealed, the night air carried the sound of alien drums, a low, steady rhythm, a warning, a promise dot, and then came the voice again, louder this time, over every speaker in the outpost. Your world dies tonight. The sun had barely risen over the dusty hills of Redridge 9 when the first signs of movement appeared on the long range. Scopes. Outpost Echo 7 was dead silent. Every man and woman held their breath as the scanners flickered back to life, showing shapes moving fast across the barren land. Dozens of alien landing craft. Commander Davis leaned over the console, eyes narrowing. The Vorlek had come. They're deploying ground forces, Maya said, her voice dry with fear. Sergeant Kane stood by the window, watching dust clouds rise in the distance. Here we go, he muttered, gripping his rifle tighter. The Vorlek. Troops hit the ground like a swarm. Massive armored vehicles rolled out first, heavy carriers with thick metal plating, alien emblems and spikes jutting from their sides. Behind them came infantry squads, tall alien soldiers with thick, bony armor, jagged weapons, and blue burning eyes. They moved in perfect formation, confident, certain of their victory. They had every reason to be. The human outpost was small. 37 soldiers, a handful of miners, and some engineers with second-hand rifles. The Vorlek outnumbered them at least 10 to 1. Avis called his people to the war room. The map showed 3 possible attack routes. The Vorlek would come from the east, where the land dipped into a rocky valley. It was their fastest path to the outpost walls. We won't survive a direct fight, Davis admitted, so we won't give them one. He pointed at a forgotten network of old mining, tunnels running beneath the valley. It had been abandoned years ago after a cave-in, but it gave them an edge. We hit them from below, Davis said, and we set traps they won't expect. The plan was crazy, but no one spoke against it. They split into teams. Kane led a group of 5 soldiers through the tunnels. Maya stayed at the command center, watching for enemy moves. Davis and the others prepared the upper defenses, placing mines along the narrow paths and setting up makeshift barricades. As the sun rose higher, the alien drums returned, that deep, steady rhythm that made the air itself feel heavy. Vorlek. War cries echoed from the cliffs. Then, without warning, the first alien squad appeared. A group of 8 Vorlek soldiers moved toward the outpost gates. Their leader, a tall brute with a horned helmet and a massive energy axe, marched at the front. Their weapons glowed with cold blue light. Hold fire, Davis whispered into the com. He watched as the aliens crossed a marked spot in the valley. A small, harmless-looking pile of rocks sat there. When the Vorlek leader raised his axe toward the gate, Davis gave the signal. Boom! A massive explosion ripped through the valley, sending dirt and alien bodies into the air. Shrapnel tore through. Armor and fire lit up the early morning sky. The humans opened fire. Bullets, grenades, and stolen plasma rifles filled the valley with chaos. Kane's tunnel team popped up from hidden exits, flanking the remaining VOR. It was the first time in years anyone had seen a Vorlek squad taken down so fast, but the victory didn't last long. More alien soldiers appeared, hundreds of them. Vorlek commanders ordered a full assault. Heavy vehicles moved in, spraying deadly plasma bolts toward the outpost walls. Sergeant Kane's voice came through the radio. They've got armored beasts with them. Big ones. Davis gritted his teeth. Fall back to secondary positions. Keep them busy. The outpost shook under the blasts. 2 watchtowers collapsed. Dust filled the air. But the humans didn't run. Maya spotted something on the scanners. "Commander, the east side ridge, movement." Davis turned, expecting more soldiers. But what appeared made his blood run cold. A massive creature, the size of a dropship, crawled over the rocks. Its thick, scaly skin shimmered in the light, and twin rows of sharp, curved claws scraped the ground. Its mouth opened in a screech, showing rows of teeth meant for crushing tanks. The Vorlok had brought a dreadclaw. It stomped toward the outpost walls. And plasma fire didn't even scratch its skin. Kane's voice crackled in. "Commander." "Plan?" Davis looked at Maya, then at the map. An old, half-collapsed mining pit lay just ahead of the creature's path. He smiled coldly. "We bait it." Hook ending. As the beast roared and charged, a small human figure, Sergeant Kane himself, stepped out onto the battlefield alone, holding a flare in one hand and a stolen alien grenade in the other. The outpost watched in stunned silence as Kane waved the flare and shouted, "Come on, you ugly freak, you're mine." The Dreadclaw turned toward him, and the trap was set. The monster hunt the ground trembled with each step the Dreadclaw took. Dust and pebbles jumped with every thunderous stomp. From behind the safety of makeshift barricades, the soldiers of Outpost Echo 7 watched in horror as the giant alien beast charged straight toward Sergeant Kane. Kane didn't flinch. His uniform was torn. Dust streaked his face, but there was a grin on his lips. In one hand, he held a glowing alien flare, and in the other, a plasma grenade he'd swiped off a Vorlok officer. "Come on, you big bastard," he muttered under his breath. The Dreadclaw screeched, baring its rows of jagged teeth. Its heavy, armored limbs crushed rock and debris as it moved. The soldiers behind Kane waited for his signal. The plan was risky. One wrong move, and the beast would tear through the outpost like paper. "Commander, we are ready," Maya's voice crackled. Through the radio. "Hold your fire," Davis replied. His eyes stayed locked on the beast and the brave soldier in front of it. Kane sprinted toward the old mining pit. The creature roared and chased after him, its massive claws tearing the ground apart. Behind Kane, a trail of hidden trip mines blinked. To life, Davis gave the order. "Now!" A chain of explosions tore through the valley floor. Dust and fire swallowed the Dreadclaw for a moment, but when the smoke cleared, the beast was still standing, wounded, furious, but it had stepped right where they wanted it. The mining pit. Kane dove to the side as the ground beneath the creature gave way. The Dreadclaw roared in confusion, its weight cracking the weakened ground, until it finally plunged into the pit below. Massive rocks tumbled in after it. A perfect trap, the outpost cheered, though it lasted only seconds. More Vorlok. Soldiers were closing in fast. The enemy's war drums beat louder, and new waves of infantry appeared over the eastern ridge. Commander Davis grabbed his rifle and spoke into the comm. "All teams, back to defensive lines. Don't give them an inch." The humans knew they couldn't outrun the Vorlok. Their only chance was to hold the outpost until either reinforcements arrived or every last one of them fell. But for the first time, they had struck real fear into the alien invaders. In the Vorlok command ship high above the planet, Commander Creth, a towering warlord with sharp, bone-plated skin and glowing blue eyes, watched the battle through his displays. He snarled in anger, smashing a clawed fist into the control panel. "How are these humans still standing?" Creth hissed. His second in command, a soldier named Drenek, spoke carefully. "They fight with madness, Commander. No order, no fear. Even our beasts fall to their tricks." Creth bared his fangs, then crushed them, burned their walls. "I want this dirt-covered rock wiped clean before sunset." Back on the ground, Kane limped back toward the outpost gates. Blood trickled down his arm, but he was grinning. "Monsters down, Commander." He panted. Davis clapped him on the shoulder. "Damn good work, soldier. You just bought us time." But time was running out. New Vorlich vehicles rolled into the valley. Armored transport walkers with mounted plasma cannons and thick shields began blasting the outer defenses. The humans fought back with everything they had: stolen Vorlich rifles, old explosives, and even makeshift weapons fashioned from mining equipment. And still, the aliens came. Maya called out from the command console. "Commander, I've cracked their comm signal." Davis spun toward her. "Can you jam it?" She shook her head. "No, but I can send a message. To them." Davis's grin returned. "Do it." Moments later, every Vorlich soldier's comlink blared to life with a human voice. It was Kane's voice, ragged but defiant. "To the cowards of the Vorlich Empire, this planet isn't yours. It was never yours. You can send your monsters, your ships, and your armies. We're still here. We're still fighting. And you'll have to pry this rock from our cold, dead hands." The message echoed through the valley. For the first time, some Vorlach soldiers hesitated. Commander Crave heard it too. His face twisted with rage. "End them," he growled. "No survivors." Davis knew the next attack would be brutal. The outposts. Walls were cracked, the defense guns almost empty, and the people exhausted. But none of them backed down. He raised his rifle. "Positions. Last stand, make it count." And as the sun began to fall, turning the sky blood red, the final battle for Outpost Echo 7 began. The last stand begins. The sun sank lower in the sky, turning Redridge 9's dusty clouds into streaks of deep orange and crimson. The air hung heavy with smoke, dust, and the sharp metallic scent of scorched alien flesh. Outpost Echo 7 was barely standing. Walls were cracked, towers were in pieces, and bodies of Vorlich soldiers lay scattered along the valley floor. But the humans were still alive. Inside the command room, Commander Davis stared at the battlefield display. It didn't look good. More alien walkers were moving in from the north. Plasma bolts streaked through the darkening sky, lighting up the rocks. Davis turned to Sergeant Kane, who had a bloodied bandage around his shoulder, but refused to leave the fight. "This is it," Davis said quietly. "They're throwing everything at us now." Kane grinned. "Good. Saves us the trouble of chasing them down later." Maya worked furiously at the damaged console. "Commander, I picked up another transmission. They're arming an orbital cannon. They plan to wipe the whole outpost from orbit." A heavy silence filled the room. They all knew if the Vorlich fired that weapon, there'd be nothing left of them or the planet's surface. Davis's jaw tightened. How long until they fire? Less than 20 minutes? No help was coming in time. No fleet, no reinforcements. It was down to them. "All right," Davis said, his voice steady. "Then we hit them first." A risky plan took shape. There was a crashed Vorlich shuttle half buried on the east side of the valley. If they could reach it, they might use its systems to jam the orbital cannon or trigger an overload on their main ship. Who's crazy enough to volunteer? Davis asked Dot before anyone else could speak. Kane raised a hand. "You know it's me." "I'll go too," Maya added quickly. "No way, Maya," Davis began, but she cut him off. "I can hack those systems better than anyone. You'll need me." Davis sighed, then nodded Dot as the last of the light disappeared from the sky. The humans prepared for one final stand. The remaining soldiers reinforced the barricades with broken alien gear and spare parts. Plasma rifles hummed to life. Mines and tripwires were set along every path. Davis looked around at his people, dirt-covered, exhausted, wounded, and knew none of them planned to run. "Tonight," Davis shouted, "we don't fight for medals or orders. we fight for each other. And if we go down, we make damn sure we take them with us." A chorus of cheers rose. Out in the valley, the Vorlek advanced. Hundreds of soldiers, armored beasts, and giant walkers stomped toward the outpost walls. The war drums pounded like thunder. Plasma bolts lit up the night. The final battle had begun. Cain and End. Maya slipped out through the old mining tunnels, while the main force held the line. Explosions rattled the ground above as they crawled through the narrow, crumbling passageways. "Sure this tunnel holds?" Cain asked. "Not even a little," Maya replied with a grin. They reached the broken shuttle, half buried under rock. Smoke curled from its engines, but the control systems inside still blinked with life. "I need 5 minutes," Maya said, rushing to the console. Outside, Davis and his soldiers fired every weapon they had. Plasma bolts streaked overhead. Explosions shook the earth. The humans fought like demons, using stolen Vorlek rifles, homemade explosives, and pure grit. They held the walls as long as they could. Every time a Vorlek squad tried to breach the gates, they were met with gunfire and flame. Sergeant Cole, one of the last surviving heavy gunners, laughed like a madman as he fired a mounted PLA-SMA cannon until it overheated and exploded. Even the wounded grabbed weapons. "Nobody stands down," Davis roared, but the Vorlek kept coming at the shuttle. Maya cursed under her breath as enemy signals jammed her progress. Almost there. Cain stood guard, picking off any alien that strayed too close. Then, on the Vorlak command ship, Commander Kreth smiled as his weapons officer announced, "Orbital cannon ready to fire." "And this," Kreth growled. Maya's fingers flew over the console. The moment the Vorlak powered up the cannon, she sent a surge through their systems. The enemy cannon flickered, and then everything went wrong for them. The targeting system overloaded, causing a feedback loop. Kreth's warship rocked violently as alarms screamed through the bridge. "What is happening?" Kreth shouted back on the ground. Maya grinned. "Gotcha." She turned to Cain. "Time to leave." Hook ending. As they sprinted from the shuttle, the Vorlak's own orbital cannon, now misfiring, charged up uncontrollably. High above Red Ridge 9, Kreth watched in horror as his ship's weapon systems locked onto their own positions. And down on the battlefield, Davis saw the cannons glow. "Intensify. Everyone, get to cover now." The night sky lit up. Turning the tide, a deafening light burst from the night sky as the Vorlak's own orbital cannon fired. But not where they expected. The massive blast of plasma. Energy struck down toward the valley, where the bulk of the alien forces had gathered. A brilliant blue-white beam split the air, vaporizing tanks, walkers, and Vorlek squads in a blinding instant. From behind the battered walls of Outpost Echo 7, the human defenders watched in stunned silence. "What the hell?" Sergeant Cain. Breathed. Commander Davis grinned as the shockwave rolled over the outpost, rattling the ground but leaving them untouched. "Looks like Maya did it," Davis said. On the Vorlek command ship, chaos erupted. Sirens blared, crew members shouted, and smoke filled the bridge. Commander Kreth roared in fury as his weapons officer stammered, "The cannon! It targeted our own troops! Shut it down!" Kreth bellowed, but it was too late. The damage was done. Back on the planet, what was left of the Vorlek army was in total disarray. The survivors, scattered and leaderless, ran for cover as explosions rocked their positions. The once proud alien force was broken, and the humans knew it. "Now's our chance," Davis shouted. "All units charge." The exhausted, wounded, and dirt-covered soldiers of Outpost Echo 7 rose from their trenches. With stolen plasma rifles, makeshift explosives, and sheer human rage, they surged forward. Sergeant Cain, covered in blood, and dust led the charge. Payback time. He shouted that the remaining Vorlek fought desperately, but without support from their command ship, their morale shattered. Human soldiers moved through the valley, taking down alien squads one by one. Explosions lit the dark like fireworks. Maya emerged from the damaged shuttle, coughing from the smoke, but grinning. "That's one for the history books," she said, joining the others. Davis met her halfway. "You saved every one of us, Maya." "We're not done yet," she replied. "I found their invasion orders while I was in their system. They weren't just here for us. They planned to hit Earth next." The words made Davis's blood run cold. "Then we finish this," he growled. Sergeant Kane pointed toward the alien command post on the hill. "Their last base is up there. We take it now." Without hesitation, the humans moved up the rocky ridge. Vorlek snipers fired down, but the defenders pressed on, dodging plasma bolts and hurling grenades. Kane led a small squad through a hidden path, outflanking the remaining Vorlek guards. They burst into the command tent, catching the alien officers by surprise. "Surprise, freaks," Kane snarled, pulling the trigger. Plasma fire filled the tent. The remaining Vorlek scrambled, but there was nowhere to run. One by one, the alien commanders fell. Meanwhile, Davis and Maya reached the old Cum station atop the ridge. It was battered and barely holding together, but Maya set to work immediately. "Can you send a message to Earth?" Davis asked. "I'll make it work," she said, sparks flying from the console as she hacked it. A minute later, a signal burst through the static. "This is Commander Ryan Davis of Outpost Echo 7. The Vorlak invasion has been stopped. Repeat. The Vorlak have fallen. Outpost holding position. Red Ridge 9 is secure." There was a long pause. Then, from deep space, Earth's fleet finally answered. "Echo 7, this is Fleet Command. Reinforcements inbound. Hold your ground. You did good, son." A cheer rose from the battered outpost. Relief washed over the soldiers, but Davis wasn't done yet. "Tell the fleet to stay sharp," he told Maya. "The Vorlak plan to hit Earth. Make sure they're ready." High above the planet, the Vorlak command ship attempted to flee, but damaged by its own cannon and the earlier sabotage, it moved sluggishly. Human dropships entered the atmosphere, their engines burning bright. "Reinforcements are landing." Kane shouted. Fresh human troops hit the ground, joining the survivors of Outpost Echo 7. Together, they swept the valley, clearing out the last Vorlak positions. Those aliens who tried to escape were cut down before they reached their ships. None of them would leave Red Ridge 9 alive. Hook ending. As dawn broke over the blood-stained cliffs, Commander Davis stood at the highest point of the outpost, looking out over the battlefield. The ground was scorched, the walls broken, but humanity stood victorious. "Raise the flag," Davis ordered. A tattered Earth flag was lifted atop the outpost's remains. It flapped in the wind. Sergeant Kane grinned. "Think they'll remember this one?" Davis smirked. "They better. And if they don't, we'll remind them." The message to the galaxy was clear. Earth fights back. And Earth wins. No mercy. No survivors. The first light of morning spread over Red Ridge 9's broken cliffs. The battlefield was silent now, littered with scorched vehicles, shattered weapons, and alien bodies. Smoke curled from the charred remains of Vorlak walkers. The once invincible alien force was no more, but Commander Ryan Davis wasn't done yet. He stood at the edge of the outpost, binoculars in hand, scanning the horizon. Maya and Kane approached, both looking exhausted but alive. "Any movement?" Kane asked. Davis shook his head. "Just smoke and wreckage. No signs of retreat. They're either dead or hiding." "Then let's finish this," Kane grunted, gripping his rifle tighter. Reinforcements from Earth's fleet were landing in waves now. Fresh soldiers, medics, supply drops. But Davis made it clear, no Vorlok was leaving this planet alive. No survivors, he ordered. Wipe out every last one. The new troops moved quickly, sweeping through the canyons and caves. Any alien who tried to run was gunned down. Those who hid in the tunnels were flushed out with grenades and flamethrowers. The Vorlak's arrogance had been their downfall. They came expecting an easy slaughter. Instead, they met a human outpost that refused to die. At mid-morning, a scout team reported that a small group of Vorlak officers had holed up in an old mining station north of the valley. It was their last holdout. Davis gathered his original team, those who'd survived the longest night of their lives. This one's ours, he told them. Kane grinned. About time. They loaded up with weapons, plasma rifles, grenades, and salvaged Vorlak gear. Maya carried a hacked alien scanner, tracking the officers' signals. They reached the station just after noon. The building was old, its walls half collapsed, but inside, the Vorlak huddled like rats, waiting for a rescue that wasn't coming. Davis signaled to his team. 2 minutes. No prisoners. The humans moved in, fast and brutal. Kane led the charge, tossing a plasma grenade through a side window. It exploded in a burst of blue fire, sending 2 Vorlak officers flying. Maya hacked the front lock, and Davis stormed through with his rifle, taking down the first alien he saw. The remaining Vorlak tried to fight, but they were broken, wounded, panicked, and cornered. Davis's team cleared the room in seconds. One Vorlak officer, bleeding from a head wound, tried to crawl away. Davis stepped in front of him. The alien glared up, his blue eyes flickering. "Humans, you don't belong," he hissed weakly. Davis raised his rifle. "Neither do you." A single shot ended it. When it was over, Davis radioed the fleet. Target cleared. Sector secure. The cleanup took hours, but by nightfall, there wasn't a single Vorlak soldier left breathing on Redridge 9. The fleet sent orbital teams to sweep the mountains and caves. Drone ships scoured the skies. As darkness returned, the humans gathered. At the outpost, battered but victorious, a bonfire burned in the center courtyard, made from shattered alien weapons and scrap. Soldiers sat around it, sharing drinks, patching wounds, and swapping stories. Davis looked around at them, the survivors of Echo 7. Fewer than half of them remained, but their spirits hadn't broken. Maya sat by a comm console, sending final reports to Earth. Kane stood at the gate, watching the stars. "Think they'll try this again?" he asked. Davis joined him. "Not soon, and if they do, we'll be ready." Hook ending. Far above the planet, deep in the darkness of space, a single Vorlak scout ship watched from a distance. Its commander, badly wounded, recorded a message. "Humans cannot be crushed. They fight like beasts. They turn death into victory. Beware Earth. Beware their worlds." The scout ship vanished into hyperspace. Earth's fleet tracked the signal, and they would follow. Because now the war had truly begun, and the galaxy would learn a simple final lesson. Humanity never forgets, and it never forgives. The end.